24 hours a day, if you tune in, wherever you are in the world, you're able to watch activists talking about how to save the world and the various ways that we have to do it. So this happens live during my noon hour, 12:30 to 1 o'clock Eastern Time in Toronto. And then we make recordings of these, and every now and then I take about three of them and put them together to make a composite or a recap. And this is one of those recaps. This is the third recap that I've made so far. And this is a humdinger. We have Craig Smith in California, who is an expert on global warming and has co-authored a book called Reaching Net Zero. And we have Paul Copeland here in Toronto. He's a retired human rights lawyer, and he will be talking with me about the Rohingya in Myanmar and Bangladesh. And we also then have Gordon Edwards and Susan O'Donnell, who are very concerned about the proposal to develop small modular nuclear reactors. And they're trying to block it, and I don't blame them. So let's get busy and hear composite number 3. So agriculture and global warming are highly connected, very, very important. So we want to explore that and see whether promoting various improved methods of agriculture can help us get to net zero. So good morning, Craig Smith.
Good morning, Meta. I thought we might start off by explaining that the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, refers to emissions from agriculture and land use and forestry and farming and so on. It lumps all that together under one category, and which they give an abbreviation AFOLU, standing for land use, agriculture, forestry, and other land uses. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And I should also mention that you wrote a very nice article. It's in Peace Magazine in March 2020, with the intriguing title, Can Trees and Cows Save Us? So I read that with great interest. You had a number of interesting points, so I will not try to go back over the things that you said. We need to reach net zero, and that's the point where human emissions of greenhouse gases are such that they can be captured or absorbed on Earth and no more goes into the atmosphere. That's a hypothetical point. It's very difficult to reach as we sit today. There are optimistic persons that say we can do that by 2050. Frankly, I don't think that's possible for various reasons.
You don't think?
But anyway,
sorry, that's what John Kerry is and Biden are trying to aim for now, to net zero by 2050.
Yes,
right?
And I think their perspective is only for the U.S. And I don't think even the U.S. is going to be able to do that, frankly, although I wish it could. But the fact that the U.S. is only a small part of the total global emissions, we're second to China, and it's two countries account for a good portion of global emissions, but for the world as a total, we're going to have extreme difficulty in trying to get there by 2050.
Well, China has.
Anyway, I'd like to.
I believe Xi has said his goal is by net zero by 2060. I believe.
Yes, he did do that. He said that not long ago. And again, that is an enormous challenge for China. Again, I don't know how believable that is because China is building dozens of coal-fired power plants. And I can't picture that they're going to stop building those plants or shut them down. So they have a big obstacle right there.
Well, yes, but they're also leading the way globally in terms of making solar panels, and I don't know about wind, but solar anyway. I've heard that that's the place to go to get your solar panels.
Well, yes, China is to be commended for a number of things. Simply stating that goal is commendable. They are proceeding with I think they have installed more wind power than any other country. They're proceeding with solar power. They have a very aggressive program to develop electric vehicles of all sizes, from motor scooters to trucks and buses. I think at last count, there were 20 electric vehicles manufacturers in China. An amazing.
That is.
And they are looking at that as a green energy as a new global market that they would like to dominate. Carbon dioxide accounts for about 3/4 of all greenhouse gases, with methane and oxygen or nitrous oxides making up most of the rest. So another way of looking at it is that fossil fuels make up about 75% of all greenhouse gases. And the balance, another 25%, comes directly or indirectly from agriculture, forestry, and land use. And another key point we have to remember is that about 30% of global emissions of carbon dioxide don't go into the atmosphere. About 30% is captured on Earth in plants and soil. Now, that's very important, and that's where agriculture and land use comes into play, because as we're seeing now, rapid deforestation and a large extent of uncontrolled wildfires, not only in the Western United States, my state, California, but also vast portions of tropical forests in Brazil and Indonesia. But with the loss of that ability to capture carbon, our problem becomes worse. And uncontrolled burning for agricultural purposes, to burn, clearing land, burning the trees and brush that's taken down or removed, is another source of carbon dioxide. So in our book, which you mentioned earlier, Reaching Net Zero, we looked at 9 different actions that my co-author and I felt were technically and economically feasible to consider. And of those, we narrowed down to 5 that we felt were really practical and could have an effect over the next 3 decades. Unfortunately, we did not include agriculture and land use practices and in our estimate. And the reason for that was that we determined that agriculture emissions are increasing about 1% per year. It's pretty much on par with population growth. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that there are many things that could be done in terms of changing crops, different methods of fertilizing, using different processes for raising cattle, some of which you talked about in your paper. But part of the difficulty is the diffuse nature of agriculture. In large countries with well-developed and advanced agricultural systems, that more can be done. But when you look across the world, there's maybe 1 million small farmers all over the world, very difficult that they're going to A, have the means or understanding of new technologies, and B, resources to implement changes that might be required.
Mhm.
So that gives us sort of a pessimistic outlook about how much can actually be done. While in principle things could be done,